All right, let's get right into it. Something really strange is happening in the heart of Europe. We're talking about a brand new and kind of unlikely alliance that's forming around one country, Hungary. It's a story about a nation facing a crisis from the inside, and now it's looking for a lifeline from the outside. So, to really set the scene, picture this. It's December 2025 at Mar-a-Lago in Florida, and this was no ordinary diplomatic get-together. One report called this meeting a war council for the illiberal international. I mean, wow, a war council. That's a heck of a phrase, and it really tells you just how high the stakes were. And at this so-called war council, you've got these four major players. Donald Trump, the incoming American president. Vladimir Putin, who wasn't physically there, but his presence was definitely felt. You've got Elon Musk, the tech titan, and Viktor Orban, Hungary's prime minister. So the big question, the one we're going to try to answer here is, what on earth is bringing these four men together?
To understand this alliance, you first have to understand the crisis that created it. We need to look inside Hungary itself. Because by the end of 2025, Viktor Orban's government was teetering on the edge. It was facing a massive threat on three different fronts: political, moral, and economic.
And the political threat is just stark. I mean, look at these numbers. For the first time in more than a decade, Orban's party Fidesz is in real trouble. It's in a statistical dead heat with a brand new opposition party called TISA. We're talking a few percentage points either way. The whole idea that Orban was electorally untouchable, yeah, that's completely gone. So who's the guy behind this political earthquake? His name is Péter Magyar. And what makes him so uniquely dangerous to the ruling party is that he's an insider. He used to be part of the Fidesz system. He knows how it all works. He basically built this new party from scratch, pulled together the entire fragmented opposition, and this is the brilliant part. He stole Orban's favorite word, sovereignty. He's arguing that Orban has actually sold out Hungary's independence.
But running right alongside this political crisis is a deep, deep moral one, and it can pretty much be summed up by this one powerful phrase that was being chanted on the streets of Budapest: protect the children. This whole thing exploded after a presidential pardon was given to someone involved in a child abuse cover-up. And from there, it just got worse, with absolutely horrific videos leaking out that showed abuse in state-run homes. This sparked a massive wave of public fury, with huge protests in the capital. And this wasn't just upsetting the usual critics, it was disgusting Fidesz's own conservative base and completely shattering the government's image as the protector of the family.
And on top of all that, you have a third crisis: money. Billions of euros in EU funding, which have been the lifeblood of Hungary's economy for years, have been frozen. Why? Because of violations of the rule of law. So this has basically starved the economy of cash and is making life really tough for everyday Hungarians.
So with this government crumbling under all this pressure, political, moral, and economic, what do? Well, Orban looked for a rescue package, and he found it from this powerful trio on the outside. It's a rescue mission built on three very distinct but connected pillars of support.
The first pillar of this whole operation is Vladimir Putin's energy lifeline. You know, despite all the EU sanctions and all the talk about getting off Russian energy, Orban has done the exact opposite. He's actually doubled down on Hungary's reliance on Moscow. And this isn't just about money. It's a political survival strategy.
So here's how it works. Russia has guaranteed a supply of cheap oil and gas all the way through 2026. This lets Orban keep his signature policy of low utility bills for voters, which is a huge deal come election time. Moscow is also helping transfer key Russian assets over to friendly Hungarian companies. And what does Putin get in return? Oh, just a strategic ally with veto power right inside both the EU and NATO. It's a pretty sweet deal for him.
Okay, pillar number 2, Donald Trump's political shield. With Trump back in the White House, Orban suddenly has a very powerful friend who can shield him from pressure coming from the West. This turns what was a relationship of mutual admiration into one of active operational support.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. On one side, you've got the European Union trying to turn off the money tap. But on the other, you have the new Trump administration turning it right back on by giving Hungary a 1-year exemption from American sanctions on Russian energy. Let's be clear, this waiver is everything. Without it, that cheap Russian oil would trigger sanctions that could absolutely crater the Hungarian economy.
And that brings us to the third and, honestly, the most surprising pillar: support from Elon Musk. Now, this isn't your standard corporate investment. This represents a new kind of alliance, one that's ideological and backed by high-tech money. It's an effort to replace the liberal capital from Brussels with, well, illiberal capital from the right-leaning side of Silicon Valley.
The centerpiece here is the 4IG SpaceX deal, which was hammered out at that same Mar-a-Lago meeting. A big Hungarian tech company, 4IG, is partnering with SpaceX to launch a Hungarian satellite network. This is a huge political win for Orbán back home. It's a shiny, high-tech success story. But it's also geopolitical insurance. It plugs a company loyal to him directly into the supply chain of America's most important defense contractor.
But you have to understand, from Musk, this isn't just about business. It's ideological. When Musk rails against the woke mind virus, he's singing the exact same tune that Orbán has been singing for years in his fights with Brussels over what he calls gender propaganda. They genuinely see themselves as fighting the same cultural battle.
So what's the intellectual glue that holds all these different pieces together? To get that, we need to talk about an ideology known as neo-reaction, or if you like the more dramatic name, the Dark Enlightenment. This is the philosophy that basically provides the justification for this whole alliance. At its core, neo-reaction, or NRX, argues that liberal democracy is a complete failure. It's basically an ideology that says equality is a myth and that democracy should be replaced with a more hierarchical, more orderly system of government, one that completely rejects what we think of as the progressive consensus. And here's where it gets really fascinating, because you can see exactly how this abstract theory is being put into practice in Hungary. NRX thinkers talk about something called the Cathedral, this idea of a liberal establishment made up of media, universities, and government. Well, Orbán's moves to take over the media and kick out a liberal university? Textbook. They also talk about a CEO monarch, a leader who runs a country like a company. Orbán's habit of ruling by decree and creating state-backed national champions? Check. Hungary has basically become the first working prototype of an NRX state.
And make no mistake, this isn't some obscure internet philosophy anymore. It has powerful friends in high places. You've got figures like U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, who's known to be close to NRX supporter and billionaire Peter Thiel. Vance is that critical bridge, and he's openly praised Orbán's model, saying the American right should learn from him. This idea is in the halls of power.
So that brings us to the end game. What is really at stake here? What's happening in Hungary is so much more than a local political drama. It's a test case for a whole new political model. And the upcoming 2026 election is going to be the deciding moment. Hungary is now facing two completely different futures. Scenario 1, you could call it a color revolution, where all the outrage over the scandals boils over and leads to a massive win for the opposition. But then there's Scenario 2, Fortress Hungary. This is where the external support from Putin, Trump, and Musk works. It allows Orbán to survive, cement his power, and create this new kind of sovereign state that plays by its own rules right inside the EU and NATO. And that leaves us with one final, crucial question. Is what's happening in Hungary just an isolated case, or are we watching the creation of a new blueprint, a model where a country, with the backing of foreign political power, cheap energy, and tech money, can just defy the entire liberal world order?